Mild COVID can cause brain damage. Florida goes against the CDC's vaccine recommendations for children. And massive gas price inflation. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Matt Gnezda, filling in for Chris while he's on vacation. According to a new study from the University of Oxford, brain damage has been linked to even mild forms of COVID-19. The CDC estimates that 43% of Americans have had COVID-19. So this potentially widespread brain damage would explain why Venom: Let There Be Carnage made over $200 million at the box office last year. There has to be something wrong with your cerebral cortex to actually enjoy this movie. I haven't been so angry watching a story about a dangerous black ooze spreading since the BP oil spill. The lead author of the Oxford study said, "It is brain damage, but it is possible that it is reversible. But it is still relatively scary because it was in mildly infected people." That's encouraging. It's reversible brain damage. Unlike the brain damage you get watching Venom: Let There Be Carnage, the IQ points you lose watching this trash are never coming back. The fact that Venom devours brains is such a clever metaphor for what happens to people who watch these movies that I'm positive the writers didn't come up with it on purpose. The lead author of the study also said, "Despite the infection being mild for 96% of our participants, we saw a greater loss of gray matter volume and greater tissue damage in the infected participants, on average 4.5 months after infection. They also showed greater decline in their mental abilities to perform complex tasks, and this mental worsening was partly related to these brain abnormalities. All these negative effects were more marked at older ages." So, like other COVID effects, this is more damaging to the elderly. On the bright side, when your grandpa says something problematic, now you can blame it on COVID. He's not racist, he just has brain damage. Speaking of COVID and people with questionable cognitive abilities, the World Health Organization. The WHO is now encouraging broad and urgent access to COVID-19 booster shots. This is a change from their previous position where they only encouraged booster shots for high-risk groups. They wanted wealthy nations to hold off on third and fourth doses until other countries got access to first and second doses. But now, with global vaccine distribution improving, the WHO now recommends boosters for anyone who can get them. While this does make sense, it doesn't help the WHO's credibility, considering they reverse positions more often than a Grandpa Simpson gif. You know it's an issue when Florida has been more consistent about their COVID messaging. Whether you agree or not with Florida's methods, at least you're not surprised. More on Florida and COVID after the break. Welcome back. This week, Florida became the first state to recommend that healthy children not get the COVID vaccine. The state's top doctor advised against it. Many health experts in other states disagreed with this decision. The director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia said, "Although it is true that children are less likely to be infected, they can still be infected." And a pediatrician in Orlando said, "This is a blatant disregard of the lives of our kids, and there's definitely some other agenda that seems to be driving this decision." In Florida's defense, and I can't believe I just used that phrase, all they said was there are certain risks to consider with vaccines that may outweigh benefits among healthy children, like rare but potentially serious side effects. Plus, a lot of Florida kids already have natural immunity from COVID, since so many people got COVID in Florida already. And anyway, it's not a policy, it's just a suggestion. Florida does recommend children with underlying health conditions or comorbidities should consider getting vaccinated. Of course, I think this whole debate is dumb. Statistically, if you want to keep kids in Florida schools safe, forget COVID vaccines. Give them Kevlar. If you have too much money right now, good news. Food prices are probably going to start going up, thanks to the rising costs of fertilizer. You know, from the whole Russia invading Ukraine thing. Russia supplies 25% of essential fertilizer ingredients to Europe. Due to economic sanctions placed on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, this loss of fertilizer could disrupt food production in Europe, which will in turn affect prices around the globe. I know, I'm surprised Russia is full of chemicals that help things grow in the dirt, when all we ever hear about is Russians using chemicals to put people in the dirt. If this invasion continues to disrupt food production and increase fertilizer prices, then alternative fertilizer sources may become more appealing, such as human composting. That's a process where human corpses are broken down and returned to the soil. Currently, human composting is only legal in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. Some see human composting as a beautiful and environmentally friendly return to nature, while others see it as disrespectful to the deceased. Personally, I don't know where I stand on this matter. I'm just not looking forward to a future where you're eating a locally grown salad and say, you can really taste the Dave in this arugula. And inflation is hitting a lot more than just food prices. More on that after this final break. Welcome back. Russia is still invading Ukraine. I know, it's been more than 2 weeks, which is longer than the attention spans of most people nowadays. Plus, so many terrible things have happened in the last 2 years that it feels like Russia's invasion of Ukraine happened 3 disaster bingo cards ago. Meanwhile, Russia is expanding their offensive in Ukraine, with airstrikes on more cities. Russian airstrikes also hit a maternity hospital in the city of Mariupol, which has been under siege for days. Military experts warn that civilian casualties are going to get worse. They expect Russia to continue bombing Ukrainian cities into submission, like they did in Syria. Speaking of, in a sign that things aren't going as well for Russia as they hoped, they're also bringing in Syrians to fight for Russia in Ukraine. When people said Russia was going to turn Ukraine into Syria, I didn't think they meant it literally. But while Russia is widening its military attack on Ukraine, the West is widening its economic attack on Russia. President Biden is ending normal trade relations between the US and Russia. And it's not just the US, it's also the G7 and the EU. Meanwhile, major Western companies like McDonald's, Starbucks, Coke, and Pepsi are leaving Russia. What will Putin do without his daily venti half-calf oat milk extra foam vanilla latte? Well, he's going to nationalize Starbucks. That is, take over Western businesses who are leaving Russia and seize their assets. Here's a crazy idea. Doing business in authoritarian countries is actually pretty risky. Are Western companies going to learn from this? Or are they just going to keep shoving money at the Chinese Communist Party? And in an effort to further sanction Russia, President Biden announced the U.S. is banning Russian oil imports. He said, "Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy." If oil is the main artery of Russia's economy, then the appendix of Russia's economy is probably humor. Russian humor is their least popular export. And before any of you in the comments say, what about the comedian Yakov Smirnoff? Well, he's not Russian, he's Ukrainian, which makes him even less funny in 2022. The House of Representatives approved banning Russian oil, with wide support from both Republicans and Democrats. Thank you, Putin, for bringing America together. But the oil ban isn't helping gas prices, with the national average reaching $4.33 a gallon on Friday. And in some areas, it's already more than $7 a gallon. This is the most expensive gas has ever been in the U.S., surpassing the previous record from July 2008 during the Great Recession. So what are we now going to call this, the Greater Recession? The head analyst of the app GasBuddy said, "Americans will be feeling the pain of the rise in prices for quite some time, with little good news foreseen." Dang, I'd say gas prices are skyrocketing, but rockets require fuel, so they can't even afford to do that. We'll just say they're ballooning. So, in an effort to combat these rising gas prices, members of the Biden administration traveled to Venezuela. U.S. media reported they held talks on allowing Venezuelan oil to be sold internationally, basically lifting the long-standing embargo to bring prices down. The White House quickly denied this. But if you don't believe the White House's statement on this one, you know who else shares your skepticism? Venezuela. They freed 2 Americans immediately following the U.S. visit. And Venezuela doesn't do random acts of kindness. Biden may also soon have talks with Saudi Arabia and Iran about increasing oil production and bringing more oil to the global market, respectively. This is a great idea. Yes, we're losing access to oil from one authoritarian country, but we can replace it with oil from 3 authoritarian countries. It's always good to diversify our reliance on authoritarian regimes. Hey, but at least the Biden administration is trying to do something. Unlike some rich celebrities like George Takei, who said, "We can endure higher prices for food and gas if it means putting the screws to Putin. Consider it a patriotic donation in the fight for freedom over tyranny." Or Stephen Colbert, who said this,
"Today, the average gas price in America hit an all-time record high of over $4 per gallon. Okay, that stings, but a clean conscience is worth $1 or $2. I'm willing to pay." It's important. Right. It's important. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Hell, I'll pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla.
Ha ha, we all find this very funny. Leave it to rich people to think that a clean conscience is something you can buy. Considering how out of touch they are, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried buying a clean conscience from Amazon that was produced by slave labor in China. Rich people telling poor people in the middle of a recession that you just need to grin and bear higher costs is especially insensitive since nearly 2/3 of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck, which isn't a surprise since year-on-year inflation rose to 7.9% in February. My question is, why are millionaire celebrities telling struggling people that they need to just put up with inflation, when these millionaires could end the war themselves right now if they wanted? All they have to do is get together and sing Imagine. But look, inflation is complicated. It's caused by a variety of long-term domestic and international factors. And rising gas prices are never really any president's fault directly. But I do understand why people like to blame the presidents, especially when just a few months ago, said president tried to take credit for slightly lower gas prices.
Now, gas prices are coming down, more than 10 cents a gallon nationally.
That didn't age well. Now, politicians are calling on Biden to invest more in domestic energy production. And domestic energy companies are asking Biden to lift restrictions, preventing them from obtaining more oil and gas. Others are calling for Biden to restart the Keystone XL pipeline to bring in more oil from Alberta, which is also complicated and won't have any direct impact on gas prices until it actually gets built, which could take years. But would you rather import oil from an authoritarian regime like Venezuela or an authoritarian regime like Canada? At least Canada gives us top-notch actors, plus Keanu Reeves. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers, not by ads. And we just launched our new page on Locals. This is a great way you can support America Uncovered. And it's an alternative to Patreon, which we also still have. So visit americauncovered.locals.com and pledge your support. We rely on you to help us keep making videos every week. Once again, I'm Matt Gnezda. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.